Hello and welcome to Buncey Cast number 10, and we have finally reached that number 10 of the podcasts. I'm going to be aiming to get at least one out a week, so thank you for the support on last week's podcast. We did actually reach 90 views, which hasn't actually happened since the very first few, so it is good to see that the numbers are slowly rising. But I don't do it for that. I do it because I enjoy making these podcasts and talking about Fulham Football Club. And this week we were away to Everton, and we lined up with Bettinelli in goal, Joe Bryan, Tim Ream, Dennis O'Doy, Timothy Fosu-Mensah, Sessegnon, Seri, Anguissa, Vieto, Schürrle and Mitrovic. And that was a much better lineup going into the game than what we have had in previous weeks. It's good to see that the defence is kind of slowly getting together to where it needs to be. Obviously, Joe Bryan should definitely be in at left back. Good to see Tim Ream coming back from injury. Dennis O'Doy back in the team after his brilliant performance coming off of the bench last week. And Timothy Fosu-Mensah still retaining his spot, which is good because Fosu-Mensah is probably better than Christie. Ryan Sessegnon was finally pushed up forward, which was brilliant to see. It's nice to see him, Schürrle and Vieto kind of having three attacking roles. Obviously, we did have four attacking players in Schürrle, Vieto and Sessegnon, with Mitrovic up top. So it was quite an attacking side with Seri and Anguissa covering the back four. However, we were changing to sort of a 4-4-1-1 defensive formation now and then, but sadly we didn't have to do that too much, and the reason was we didn't play too attackingly because we did lose 3-0, and we did actually have a very positive end to the first half. I didn't manage to go, not going to be going to too many away games this season, however it was a very positive end to the first half. Sessegnon hitting the bar. Obviously, Sessegnon, that was such... it's a bit annoying because he should have scored it, but at the same time, he's new in the Premier League. You can't expect to score all the time. It's just unlucky because it hits the bar. And, I mean, any player can hit the bar from there. It's not just because it's Sessegnon. And seen some people comment like, oh, Sessegnon's awful and all that because he's hit the bar from there. It's just funny, especially from Cardiff fans. Well, that is quite funny. But moving on from that, obviously we did continue to get unlucky. Earlier on in the game, Schürrle absolutely skied a great opportunity, which was a shame because we should have taken the lead, to be honest, in that game. I don't know how we didn't score, but sadly, in the second half, we did seem to just lose all of our confidence whatsoever. And it was such a shame because after the positive end to the first half, losing all our confidence in that short space of time of 15 minutes was a real shame. And we came out in that second half and quite simply, we just weren't good enough to fend off Everton. And they did end up exploiting the team and took the 3-0 victory. Obviously, 3-0, I think, is a bit more than what they probably deserved. I think 1-0 would have been fair. However, it is far too early to be saying bad things about Fulham because I probably predicted them a bit too high. I've said it before. I think a lot of people predicted them higher than what we probably will get. But I think our main aim this season will be to stay up. But it is far too early to be making these judgments. I see, there's a lot of comments at the moment surrounding Fulham with negativity, saying hello relegation, things like that. And it is a real shame because we don't want to surround the club with too much negativity. And I am all for everyone having their own opinion on the club. However, we don't want to surround it with all this negativity because players could see it, it could get in their head, and we don't want that. We want positivity like we did all of last season. Well, for most of it anyway, certainly the second half. Little can be said about the first half, but positivity, that's what we want with the side. I fully still believe we will stay up. It's far too early. I think there are teams that are worse than us, Huddersfield, Newcastle to name two, probably West Ham. However, I think West Ham will still stay up with Fulham. I think that West Ham are a side that will probably still stick to staying up for a fair few seasons. because that's just how they move forward. They always seem to scrape it. But with Fulham, obviously, I think that we will still get around 14th to 16th finish. It would be nice to get higher. However, just stay in the league. That's all I ask. That would be fantastic. Moving on to individual performances, Marcus Bettinelli, I thought, had a very decent game in goal once again. He did make some decent saves. Obviously, conceding 3 goals is never fantastic. However, certainly one of them, a header from Tosin, it wasn't really his fault because the defence didn't do their job properly. Odoi was nowhere to be seen, and he was never going to get to the head of Tosin with Odoi's height. And Sigurdsson's goal, one of them outside the box, curling finish. I did see a comment on Twitter saying it did look very similar to the goal that Lucas Moura scored against us at Tottenham away, just that it was along the floor instead of in the air. And I couldn't agree more. It did look very similar. It was a nice finish. I don't think any goalkeeper would really get to that with the way it was moving forward and obviously the speed. It was a great finish, fair play to Sigurdsson. And the other Sigurdsson goal I haven't actually seen, so I can't really say too much on that, but I haven't seen anything surrounding Marcus Bettinelli, and I still think he's a goalkeeper to have in goal. It would be nice if we could maybe get Sergio Rico in at some point. However, for now, we need to stick to solidify this back line and the goalkeeper. So for now, Marcus Bettinelli should be staying in the goal. Defensively, obviously, Fosu Mensah came off around the 6th minute injured, and Cyrus Christie came on to replace him. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Christie take his spot next week if Fosu Mensah is out injured. Joe Bryan also went off injured late on in the game. Sadly, we had already made 3 substitutions, which did mean that Bryan had to come off and we were left exposed with 10 men, and we did concede a 3rd goal at that point. It was a shame, but we wouldn't want Bryan to forcefully stay on the pitch because it could get his injury worse and he could potentially be out for longer. I think that Mitrovic again today was very isolated. He didn't get many opportunities, and what was real shame was the fact that on paper we had 0 shots on target, and it was a shame because we did play some nice football in that first half, but again that second half was just unacceptable. I thought Anguissa didn't look fantastic today, but it is one game. Every player has an off game. It was good to see Tom Cairney back from injury coming on as a substitute. Nice to see him back, along with obviously Tim Ream back as well. I think that Tim Ream was something we were certainly lacking. Even though we lost 3-0, I think it was certainly one of our better defensive performances because the goals didn't really come from defensive errors. They just came from great Everton movements. Only one of the goals, which was a cross into Tosin, maybe Odoi could have done a little bit better on that. And potentially Bettinelli could have saved it. Now, Odoi did also make a very silly mistake early in the second half when he gave away a penalty. Now, a lot of people were saying that it shouldn't maybe have been a penalty. I think that if it was against us, we would be wanting a penalty. I think that there and then it was probably the right decision, purely because the way that I seen it, Odoi raised a hand as he was going through to the goal. He pushed his back, and he's bound to go down. Any player will go down on the pitch like a fairy nowadays. It's just how the way football's going. It is a real shame because obviously it would be great to have, how the old game style with players actually getting hurt to go down. Obviously, I don't like seeing people get hurt, but going down for no reason whatsoever, it's a real shame to see diving in the game, but that's a whole separate thing. And obviously, Odoi, silly mistake, rookie error. It does come back into him not being a Premier League defender. However, he did do really well last week, and against Everton, I thought he was certainly decent. I think that over time, Alfie Mawson will 100%, and I can't stress that enough, take over from Dennis Odoi, either Alfie Mawson or Maxime Le Marchand. However, going into next week, I do think that Maxime Le Marchand will probably go at left back, and that is the reason for that is because Joe Bryan came off injured. Could that be long-term injury or just short-term? Hopefully short-term because he is a good player. But if he is potentially not available for next week, then Maxime Le Marchand is the best bet. I would hope that we would play him rather than Ryan Sessegnon. because I think that Sessegnon is more suited attackingly. I thought that he did show some good spells today. Obviously, we were very, very, very isolated today. There was just not much we could really do. It was a real shame. We do obviously have Arsenal Arsenal at home next week. It's 12 o'clock kickoff, and I hope that we could pick up a point from that. But if you ask me right now, do I think we'll get a point from that? Absolutely not. The way the team's going in that's not me being negative whatsoever. I just think that at the current stage that the team's at, I don't think that we're really going to be coming away with a point from that game. If we could get a point, battle it out, and hopefully keep a clean sheet, then that would be fantastic, because sadly, stats show that we are conceding just over 2 goals per game. We want our stats change, but the thing is, we are only 7 games into the season, and it's out of a 38 game season. So at the end of the day, people saying like, "Oh, Fulham are going to go down, Fulham are this, Fulham are that," I think there's a long way to go yet. Obviously, like over 30 games still to play, and I don't personally think that the Premier League table really starts to take shape until the January transfer window is over. It's at that point when we can start looking into how it's really going to look at the end of the season. Obviously, the bottom teams will come to shape fairly sooner, because the relegation teams normally don't really win too many games at all. Obviously, Fulham have only won 1 game, and that was against Burnley at Craven Cottage. 4-2 victory, very good victory, but again conceding 2 goals, so not fantastic yet again. But I do think that we will start picking up points over time. We do play Cardiff soon and Huddersfield in the next month or so. So points will come our way. I think that Cardiff we should definitely beat. I would be quite disappointed if we don't beat Cardiff after all the snack I talk about them. But that would be a very bad game to lose. However, looking at Arsenal, I don't think we will get much. But if we do, fair play to the lads. Line-up wise, I'm not too sure we're going to change too much, purely because we want to start solidifying the team. The only changes I can really see us making, or what I would hope us to make, is potential injuries. If Joe Bryan or Fosu Mensah are injured and can't make it to that game, then that's fair enough. Then play Lamarchand at left back, keep Cess in attacking, and play Christie over Fosu Mensah, and hopefully next week we will potentially see Tom Cairney come in for Vietto. Now that is only if we're going to stick to that 4-2-3-1 formation, because if we're not going to stick to that, then potentially Cairney could be coming in for someone else. But if we're going to stick with the 3 cams, then I think that we need to have Cairney come back in, play like number 10 rather than Vietto, because I think he'll be better suited to it. And I think that Vietto has been a little bit lacklustre recently. Not a massive fan. He did show really good spells against Burnley, but apart from that, not too much I've seen from him. He did play decently last week, but not too much apart from that. I am definitely excited for Cairney to be back in the team. Obviously, I don't think I haven't actually seen him play this season live, apart from Crystal Palace and Tottenham. So it will be great to have Cairney back in the side. And hopefully, with the creativity, we will start to create more chances, get the ball to Schürrle more to feed through to Mitrovic, get those crosses into him. We need to exploit his heading. And hopefully, teams will stop wrapping their hands around Mitrovic. Because, yes, he's a bulky bloke. But at the end of the day, just because people have their hands around him, it doesn't mean that he's just faking it. Because when the players wrap their hands around him, the referees tend to just ignore it because Mitrovic is strong. But they can still obstruct him, stop him from getting to the ball. And hopefully, soon enough, we will start to see less of that happening and more of the referees taking action against it. Card-wise, against Everton, Mitrovic picked up a yellow, and so did Dennis O'Doy. Hopefully we can stop picking up these yellow cards. Obviously disciplinary is a massive thing, but we haven't, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we've had a single red card this season, so that is absolutely fantastic, 7 games in. hopefully we can see more of that. And that just about wraps everything up for this week's podcast. Thanks again for the support on last week's. If you have made it this far into the video, then be sure to drop a like and subscribe, all of that. And thank you very much for listening, and goodbye for now. Yeah.